All right, so here's a look at the new expanded edition of Absolute Planetary. That's the book here on the right. It clocks in at 880 pages, which I think makes it the biggest Absolute edition that DC's produced so far. I think prior to this book, probably Absolute Fourth World was probably the biggest at the time. That one also clocks in at over 800 pages, but it's not quite as big as this one. Uh, Now, Planetary has been collected in absolute format before, but that was in two separate volumes, and those are the ones here on the left. It's volume 1 and volume 2. So the main difference between the expanded edition and the first editions is the expanded edition collects Planetary 1 to 27, which is the entirety of the main series, plus the 3 one-shot crossovers with JLA, The Authority, and Batman. Whereas the first editions of Absolute Planetary, they only collected issues 1 to 27, which is really all you need to enjoy the story. The crossovers, they're really fun and they're cool, but they're not essential to understanding everything that's happening in the main series. And actually, I don't think any of the events in the crossover issues are referenced in issues 1 to 27. So yeah, they're just kind of extra stories that are really fun to read. So let's take a closer look at the slipcase of the expanded edition. So you can see here that the front image is basically the same as volume 1. It's just been blown up to fit the slipcase. And the back of the slipcase is the cover art for volume 2 of the first editions. And here you have the spine, which looks really nice. This is what the spine looked like on the first editions. I prefer this one. There's more art in it, more color. It really pops better. Top of the slipcase, some more art. And here's the spine of the book itself. So there is no dust jacket with this book. What you have instead is this really gorgeously designed, vintage-looking cover. And all this detail is embossed into it, so you can feel the texture in this book. It kind of has that old relic manuscript type feel to it. Like it could be sitting in some ancient library collecting dust. So I really like it, and you get the same treatment on the spine, and that kind of textural detail is on the back as well. It's a nice looking book. So let's take a look at the book and flip through it. If you've never read Planetary before, I do recommend it. It's pretty interesting and it's quite a fun read. To me, it's almost like in a way, it's like a tribute to pop culture, in the sense that it takes elements from the last 100+ years of popular fiction in books and in comics and in cinema, and turns it into a single coherent narrative that becomes the backstory or the backbone for this series. So you end up with a lot of issues, especially early on, a lot of issues that are homages to different genres and different eras of popular fiction. For example, there's an issue that is an homage to early 20th century pulp novels and the heroes in them, like Doc Savage and The Shadow. And there's another issue that plays with the concept of kaiju, like basically monster films. And yet another issue that's an homage to Hong Kong action movies, like the kind of stuff John Woo and Chow Yun-fat were doing in the 80s. So it takes all this material and stitches it together and weaves what is basically a secret history of the world. And Planetary is an organization of explorers who are they're like paranormal archaeologists, and they go around uncovering this secret history of the world. So yeah, it's a really fun read, and definitely recommend checking it out. So we got to talk about the art. The art in this series is phenomenal. It's pretty much all done by John Cassaday. He drew all 27 issues of the main series plus the crossover with Batman. And yeah, this was pretty much a career-defining run for him. Like, the art in this book is stunning. Like, look at this page. It's just beautiful stuff. And the really neat thing was that because the story jumps and plays with so many different genres and eras of pop culture, John Cassaday is pretty much guaranteed to be drawing something unique and new and insane in every issue. And he does this gloriously. And he even sometimes will play with his art style to kind of capture the feeling of a different era. And he does all this through the series while still kind of maintaining a certain style, a certain aesthetic to the book. And yeah, it's amazing work. Like, Planetary would not be what it is without Cassaday's art. So let's take a look at the construction of this book, because that's where things kind of go off the rails here. If we were to open up around the midpoint, you can see there's no eye. There's no flexibility in the spine whatsoever. And that's going to lead to some gutter loss. Now you can see on this page, because everything is confined within panels, it looks fine here. And on this side, but let's find a splash page or a 2-page spread. Should be one right here. So that's not looking too good. Basically, this giant is cutting across 2 pages, and most of his foot is gone in the gutter. Most of his forearm is gone in the gutter. Yeah, that's pretty sad to see, given that this should be the definitive edition of Planetary. And maybe it still is, but this binding is doing a real huge disservice to the art. Here we have a comparison of the expanded edition of Absolute Planetary. It's here on the right with the first edition of Absolute Planetary. You can see in the first edition, there's no gutter loss. Like, the art transitions from one page to the next, and there's none of it is lost. And that's because in this one, in addition to have a smaller page count, it's also got a nice flexible spine, so you get that nice eye, which helps to lift the page up. And yeah, like, compared to here, you can see the whole foot. And this one, you can see the first 3 toes. If you really want to, and try to follow the curve of the page into the gutter and really get in there, you can kind of make out the little bit of the 4th toe. And then here, most of the arm's gone. Here, you can see the whole arm. None of it is lost at all. So, I mean, if you just looking at this, I'd say you're probably losing like a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch tops of art on either side of the center line. So that's not great. That's pretty disappointing. And it's disappointing because DC has actually already shown us they can produce an absolute edition with this kind of a page count with a decent binding. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'll show you. I'm talking about this guy right here, Absolute Fourth World, Volume 1. This came out about a year ago. It's got 816 pages compared to Planetary, which is at 880 pages. 64-page difference. It's not nothing, but they're pretty close in size. Right? Like, these guys, these are big. We're basically getting omnibus-sized page counts in absolute size pages, because your typical absolute prior to these guys coming out was about 400 to 600 pages. So if we open this guy up around close to the middle of the book, you can see there's actually some flexibility in the spine. There's a decent eye, especially for a book this size. It's a decent eye. And so there's the gutter loss is minimized. You're still going to get some, but like you can see, this guy's hand is right in the middle of the page, and some of it's missing. But a little bit of an eye is better than none. If anything, they probably should have released Absolute Planetary in 2 volumes again, like they did before. But what's done is done. Still, it's pretty unfortunate because, yeah, they've already shown that they can build a decent absolute sized book with this big of a page count. Okay, so back to Planetary. Despite what we just saw with the binding, it does appear to be sewn binding, because I can see here, you probably can't see in the camera, but I can see here the thread that's running through the pages. And so it looks like it's sewn binding, but they've also decided to just glue it down flat to the spine of the book. And that's really unfortunate and pretty disappointing, because this should be the definitive edition of Planetary. And so with that in mind, you kind of expect better, especially with a series that has such beautiful art. So with that said, let's take a look at how well this book stays open, because books that have a tight binding like this, they have a tendency to want to keep closing on you, especially early on. And with this book, I've already tried to relax the spine, and I flipped through it a whole bunch of times, front to back to front, just to try and break the pages in. And what I'm finding is that there are some sweet spots where it just kind of stays open. So here's page 15, it's staying open, no big deal. A little bit further in, still staying open. Let's grab another chunk. It's page 55, not too bad. Let's grab a bigger chunk. We're somewhere in the 3rd issue, and yeah, it's actually doing a decent job of staying open. So here's a spot where we're at page 110. Here's a spot where it wants to close if you don't give it a little bit of a push, but after that, now it is kind of staying open. Not as flat as you'd like to see, obviously, and you probably, as you're reading this, you probably still want to keep a hand or a finger on this side, so you can flatten the page out a bit. But actually, this is not too bad, considering that the binding just has no flexibility whatsoever. So another spot where it wants to keep closing, so you gotta give it a bit of a push. Yeah, it stays open. So that's actually not too bad, better than I expected. In terms of page quality, this is nice paper. It's thick, there's a slight grainy texture to it, and it's a bit of a sheen, but it's not super glossy. I hate glossy pages. I actually prefer matte pages, and this is somewhere in between. It's like a semi-gloss or a semi-matte, and yeah, it looks pretty good. This is nice paper. So just to wrap this up with some final thoughts, the book is beautifully designed. From the slipcase to the cover, I love all the details. The paper is really good stock, and the art looks amazing in absolute format. Like, you're not going to get it any bigger than this, unless they do an artist edition, which I would love to see, and I'd buy that in an instant. But yeah, otherwise, this is as big as it's going to get. And so everything about this book is great, except for that binding. And I don't know why they went that way. Maybe they're worried that the weight of the pages of the book block would collapse a more flexible spine and the whole thing would just fall apart. But if that was the case, I'd have rather seen thinner pages to have a lighter book and allow for a more flexible spine. And so I know that that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. For me, as I was reading this, I didn't notice the tight binding to be that big of a problem until I got to those double page spreads. Because, there's no way around it. Those double page spreads, they don't look good. Typically in a 2-page spread like that, the center of your of the composition is near the middle, and that's the stuff that's getting lost. So there's that. But thankfully, there's not a lot of double page spreads in this series. So most of the art is confined to a single page. And even when it's a full bleed image like this, like a splash page that takes up the entire page, the stuff that's curving into the gutter and getting lost down there is, it's just the edge of the image, and there's usually nothing there that is all that important to look at. Not to diminish the artwork or anything. It's just that as you're reading the book, in your reading experience of this, you're not really losing much by not seeing the absolute edge of the page. And actually, I'd compare the reading experience of this book to probably some of the thicker DC omnibuses that have been released so far, like Infinite Crisis or Final Crisis or the He-Man omnibus. Actually, now I'm really curious. I'm going to go take a look at that. Just bear with me. So here's my copy of the He-Man omnibus. It's actually thicker than the expanded edition of Planetary by about 1/4 inch. If I open this guy up, this does have an eye, and pretty decent eye for the size of the book. But you are still losing art in the gutter there. It's curving in, and you're losing a little bit of the art on the very edge of the page. So I'd say if you have any of these really thick DC Omnis and you've read them and enjoyed them and didn't really find the overall reading experience to be impacted by the gutter loss, then I'd say you'd probably be okay with the expanded edition of Absolute Planetary. But if you are bothered by that, then yeah, this may not be for you. You may be better off looking for the first editions, the 2 volumes of Absolute Planetary. You won't get the crossover issues, but they're not essential to the story. So that's it for this look at the Absolute Planetary Expanded Edition. I hope you found this video interesting or useful. And yeah, I hope to keep making more. So thanks for stopping by. Wherever you are, hope you're having a great day or a good evening. And see you next time.